So we'll call the meeting to order. Today's Thursday, April 4th. And then we are going to approval of the agenda. So that would be for the minutes of February 1st.
No, we need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay.
Changes.
So we
I
need
make
a
a motion to
motion.
approve the agenda.
Perfect.
Right.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion, open forum? Or did I skip again? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, number 3, approval of minutes.
Do I hear we make a motion for approval of the minutes from February 1st?
I'll second the motion. Oh,
We need a first.
oh, we need it first.
Let's,
Alyssa.
Sorry.
No.
we're all
Now you can
training.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll second the motion.
And then
Any
any
discussion?
discussion?
All in favor?
Aye, I guess. Wasn't here.
Motion carries.
Oh, I just did half your job for you, Paul.
We're killing it too.
Okay, so open forum, seeing none.
Well, I did all the hard work.
We'll move on to number 5, department reports. So thank you all for being here tonight. Couple small updates here. We're working on getting ready for spring now that the snow is melting again. Docks are already in at Nisswa Lake Park. They've been in for a few weeks. Ball field rentals will be starting as soon as the fields dry out and we can get some touch-up maintenance going there. So just doing a lot of things, trying to get ready for spring here out in the parks. Couple weeks ago, I did meet with a company regarding buckthorn removal at Nisswa Lake Park. So if you guys are not familiar with buckthorn, it's a tough item. So I just kind of wanted to see, since we don't have a very large staff capacity, what an outside vendor would cost. The main area or the more prevalent area is between the trails and the lake. And they estimated that area would cost about $4,500 to take care of. And so that's an initial treatment, cutting anything over 1 inch. And then coming back to spray a herbicide. They said the outer parts of the park would be about the same cost. And then we have an ongoing maintenance
We could
with
bring
it.
in goats.
Goats are another option. I have not priced out goats yet. But I do know that that is an option. It's been used in the area. And so
No.
No.
actually, They eat the buckthorn.
they eat everything.
Yeah.
And so just wanted to kind of let you guys know that we do have buckthorn over there. That's the only place so far that we've identified it on park land. Not sure what kind of course of action we're gonna take. I did ask them how close to a water source they will apply a herbicide. They said they won't do it closer than 30 feet. So that was definitely one of the considerations of goat versus herbicide. And trying to figure some of that out.
And they can climb the steep cliffs.
Yes, but part of it is once you disrupt it, then kind of the growth takes off at a more prevalent rate. And then trying to figure out they recommend burning it on site or chipping it. And so just kind of getting some information at this point, getting a cost, getting a process. But yes, it is a tough thing to get rid of. Recreationally, we have T-ball and baseball registration open for a couple of more weeks. Soccer starts April 15th. So getting ready for that. And then time for play, our indoor youth play at the community center is now done for the season. little note on the Gull Lake Trail, we did receive our third reimbursement. We are allowed to submit for 4 reimbursements. And so we're the grant expires, the current grant expires June 30th. So we're trying to wrap up the current section, while we start on the next section and trying to make sure we don't get them mixed up.
Just, can you remind us of what's left to do? I know you have to put in, to paint the crossing marks.
Yeah,
What
that's,
else?
a lot of it's just some general touch up. We've been watching some of the areas that have been, ponding.
Oh, yeah.
So trying to keep an eye on that. I just drove it yesterday to see kind of how some of the snow melt. I drove it, another week ago after the snow to see kind of what the usage with snowmobiles were. So yeah, we have a very small punch list of like touch up stuff, painting some crosswalks, things like that will be done, with the city's painting. And then, getting in touch with Anderson Brothers and making sure, so Widseth is back in contact with them, getting their final punch list of items and what they need. Lakeshore has some paving that they need to do, with the approaches to the bridge. And so they have a bit more substantial work in Lakeshore than we do over here in Nisswa.
What about the barbed wire?
That is still being worked on and communicated with the property owners. And so we're trying to get some information back from Widseth on that one before we go, and have discussions with the property owners.
What's a barbed wire?
There's a couple fences, that were installed very close to the trail. And so we've done our research and talked to the different entities involved and, trying to figure out the best course of action.
Is it on their property? Is it on private property?
No, it's actually in the right of way.
Okay.
So. Lots of layers to that
Mm-hmm.
one topic. Any other questions about the happenings? Cool. We can move on to new business. Item A is commission policies. I just wanted to put this in your packet, since this is Blake's first meeting and for everybody else, a reminder, just kind of the purpose of commissions here in Nisswa. It has the policies for filling vacancies and, just kind of the roles and responsibilities. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at any time, not just tonight. And then if you're just gonna be absent from a meeting, just let us know in advance. Any questions? New business, item B, Camp Lincoln Road update. So I put a pretty lengthy memo in your packet with pictures. If you haven't been out there yet, or if you missed it before the snow fell. So thus far, we have constructed the entry drive, parking lot, and 1,800 feet of trail. So all those pictures are in there. We still have to compact the trail after the frost is out of the ground. So we're gonna do that kind of as all the other trails are placed, as a final one fell swoop. We have reviewed the plans for the toilet. It should be the same toilet that is at the Pequot Fire Tower. And so you have the picture in your packet is of the Pequot Fire Tower, but it should look just like that. With the anticipated delivery of early July is what the current timeline is.
Just like.
And then we had to apply for a CUP, a conditional use permit through planning and zoning for the remaining 3,800 feet of trail. I think I've told you guys this a couple times now and had that color coded map. The reason for that is the shoreland rules apply. So we're within 1,000 feet of water, and within that, you can only move 100 cubic yards of dirt. And we have more than that. So it was reviewed and the planning commission did approve it. So we'll be able to clear the trees on those 2 remaining trail loops. And then once road restrictions lift, they'll be able to bring in the crushed concrete and start putting the trails down. So it should be pretty operational, come middle of summer, I anticipate.
Is on this map, Amber, I see where the bathroom is. There's a little red line that comes off of Camp Lincoln Road. Is that the north entrance that people are commenting
No,
about?
so I'm glad you brought that up. We can move on to, item one under this and trail entrances. So, I've been, throughout this whole process, I've been in different communications with people in the neighborhood. And so that's kind of how some of this came up, with concerns of trail entrances. So everything in red are trails that were on the concept design that had the archaeological survey that have been surveyed, but we're not going to be constructing them right now.
Okay.
So, well, that is all for a different time and place. What is in green has been constructed. The yellow area is what just got approved for the CUP. The northern entrance that I was referring to is this one up here.
What?
Can you see?
Oh, okay, yeah,
Way up high.
yeah.
The furthest north access. And so that is a trail. So it'd be foot only for foot and bicycle. And so the concern that was brought up is that area adjacent to it is cleared. And the concern is that people would be parking in that cleared area. And so it's kind of on a hill and a curve, like most of that road there. So that was their concern. And this was all brought in through a group email. Someone else on that group email commented on having that north access would allow people to get off the road coming from the north. Part of the feedback we heard is that it's a heavily used trail road with pedestrians and bikes. So one of the theories on having that north access is you can get them off the road sooner. And their other point was for maintenance and emergency response potentially. So I told them I'd run it past you guys to make sure I had multiple opinions on this and thinking of all possible courses of action and trying to create the best outcome possible. I did talk to Public Works and Police. They did not have concerns with it. So I want to bring it to you guys, and see what your thoughts are on having that trail access or, removing it.
How many cars could park in this cleared area, do you think?
It's grass covered, and so you're like off-roading kind of to get there. It could probably take a few, 2, 3,
It would be
depending on
ni-
how they park.
It would be nice to have an entrance
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
You know,
I agree.
people could go, park there and choose to take that trail.
Will there be signage directing people down to the real entrance?
That was one of my thoughts, that if it does become a concern and people are not, one, if they're driving all the way off the road and we're having issues with the land, or two, if they're not going all the way off the road and we're having safety issues on the road, we can put up a sign, parking in 400 yards, or no parking or whatever it may be, as one way if there is an issue with it.
Will there be signage at the entrance down there?
That's part of the plan. We don't have, it's part of the grander wayfinding signage thing that we continue to discuss. I do think there will be a park entrance sign along the road, and then ideally, if we had something on each end of Camp Lincoln, would be my hope. Whether it's on Camp Lincoln or on Nash Way in 13, things to be determined.
But at this trailhead, would we have any signage, you're saying?
Um,
Cause I mean, if parking was an issue, we could say, trail entrance and also say no parking.
right. Yeah, at that intersection, at that entrance or location, I think there could be multiple approaches to signage, whether it's parking ahead, no parking. Here's the rules of the trail because the cars start driving down the trail. Things like that. Maybe there's a kiosk and a full informational thing because so many people are walking in from that end that we need to have maps on both ends of the
Yeah.
park.
We could also use vegetation too, if we needed a plant, a buffer along the road. You could still have it be an entrance, but you could use vegetation to clearly mark out that there's no way to get a vehicle in there.
Definitely.
Mhm. It's
It's
gonna
much
take
prettier
a
than a
while for
sign.
people to even realize the park is there.
In the
Yeah.
entrance
We
there.
do some Major advertising, it'd be nice to have an article in the paper when it's all ready to go.
Yeah,
But I do think having multiple, at least trail entrances would be
Yes.
nice.
I do too.
Yeah.
I could see, entering from the north and just doing one big loop and then,
Yep.
continuing back north versus having to go all the way down to the main entrance.
And if the first responders, the local first responders don't think there's gonna be an issue with it. I mean, why cry foul now when nothing's happened,
sure.
so, I don't know.
No, I think we have a lot of good ideas that if there are issues,
Yeah.
ways to minimize it. But knowing how many people walk that road to, even for a little section to get them off, I think is also helpful with safety too.
Agree.
So what I'm kind of hearing is that we can leave it in and we will correct it if it becomes a problem, either signage or trees or other barriers of sorts and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Segue right into signage. So in your packet, signage and operationally, I kind of put a couple things in the packet that I was thinking, as we move, knowing that this is coming down the pipeline. Park hours, the hours that I have listed, 10 a.m. to, or 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., kind of fall in line with the noise ordinance. And then, bathroom open May 1st to October 31st. That falls in line with the brush pit. And I think pretty close to the Pequot Fire Tower. I don't know when they open it, but I do think they close their bathrooms, in the fall.
Some early.
We do plan on plowing the entry road and parking lot to allow for people to have winter access. And then not grooming the trails at this time. Currently, we don't have the equipment to do that, being one of the primary reasons. Not to say that we won't or we can't in the future, but taking into consideration equipment and staffing time, my recommendation is not at this time. So that's kind of what I was thinking on some of those lingering operation questions. I know we've been asked previously if we're gonna put a gate on the entrance road. Also, don't have a plan to do that at this time. I think we can, if it is starting to become an issue, that's something that we can easily put in. But then again, locking, unlocking is a power gate. We don't have,
Yeah.
figure that out at the time if it
There's
is.
nothing gonna be in there that needs to be locked up. The bathrooms are gonna be locked and.
So, any other thoughts on kind of some of those operational type things I'm not thinking about, things you want to see adjusted? Okay. So then signage, ideally, my hope is to have a list of park rules that will go with all of the parks. So City Park, Nisswa Lake Park, Camp Lincoln, whatever we call it, park. And so that there's not different rules for different places, is my hope. So I've looked at what we currently have at our parks. I've taken a couple of different local parks into consideration in different communities, Google. And then I did have planning and zoning and police review this list as well to make sure we had everything that we needed. So wanting to run this past you guys, questions, comments, rules that were missing, additions, edits to the language. We're not going to print signs next week, so we have time. One that I do want to point out is the cannabis products that's still kind of being discussed within city council. We don't have an ordinance on that. There is state statute that says you cannot, smoke or anything where a minor can inhale it. So that's just kind of one of that I have a question mark by of how the city would like to include or not include that, depending on when we print signs and how that discussion goes.
I think these are all good rules, but it's such a long list. Is there any way that some of these can be incorporated together or shortened or something? Because I'm concerned that people, this is such a long list that they aren't going to take the time to read it, you know? It's not an easy glance.
Yes. Our current signs are in paragraphs, it feels like. So, and I was trying to go with a list that didn't have a bunch of no's. The entire bottom half of this list is prohibited items. So I thought that I had, you could have prohibited and then just start listing it out instead of having prohibited under every bullet point.
That's a good idea.
Is an alternative way to group things.
Yeah,
So it's not so wordy.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too.
It says that pet waste must be picked up and disposed of immediately. Are we going to provide a pet waste receptacle? Aside from regular trash?
We've continually talked about it, of whether we're providing the doggy bags in a separate receptacle or you just toss it, you bring your own doggy bags and you throw it in the trash. Certainly open to suggestions. You quite often walk a trail and you see the doggy bags left.
Oh, I
That
see
is
that on the Gull
irritating.
Lake Trail. yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure which way is better.
Most people in the woods up in here are just gonna toss the dew in the woods.
Which works at a place like Camp Lincoln, but when you're out in center field,
Yeah.
it's a different issue.
Right. Right, that's right.
So,
And then they usually bring dog owners usually bring their own little doggy bags, you know? No.
I think the important part is that we're providing a receptacle.
Well,
And if it's separate or together, I
Yeah,
mean,
and staff time to manage all, you know, depending on how many receptacles we're
mhm.
adding, that's X amount of staff time and management.
Maybe that's something we put on our wish list to do, to provide them.
Yeah. Cause I mean, in something like Camp Lincoln, you can put one on each end,
Mhm.
carry it through potentially,
Yeah.
but, City Park. Yeah, there's options.
I'm gonna add on what Paula was just said about shortening up the list. So these are good rules, but, some of them are very subjective, like be courteous to others and use the park amenities as intended. Doesn't that go without saying? Does that have to be specified? Especially when you've got a lot more regulations and rules?
Yeah, they're definitely subjective.
But
I
that's.
think we all have a different idea of what courteous might mean.
But the main thing is we want the rules like no smoking, no alcohol, you know, those are ones you want to stand out anyways. That people, because if I was looking at that list, if I'm looking at that list, I would just kind of like see the first two and I would just go, meh. and
Would
start
you
walking away.
think the prohibited list to go to the top?
Absolutely. Yes,
The what go to the top?
the
Prohibited list.
prohibited list,
Oh.
the
mhm.
main rules.
Good question.
I would kind of think that's, if you put prohibited at the top, it's like the very first thing you're seeing and it's not super inviting. in my
Yeah.
opinion.
That's what I was thinking.
And so I think having it towards the bottom is kind of, that's like a cover all your base, like your basic usage of park. And then, hey, here's the prohibited stuff that's not acceptable. In my opinion, would be a little bit better, but
Some of these could be shortened, like the one about do not post, paste, fasten, paint, or affix. I mean, that could be shortened to just do not post any, whatever, you can shorten some of these up.
Oh, defaming of the park.
And were you saying like pull apart the prohibited and then make that one bullet? Or one, so prohibited
Section.
would say there, and then it would say horse riding, dumping garbage, those listed out together. Yeah.
And I've seen other signs, and again, I don't know who the manufacturer would be, but there's images to spruce it up a little.
Yeah, make a little, some
Some of
icons.
them are, the image and some have the line through it and
Yeah.
is another way to visually engage people in a different way. But yeah, some of them, especially the post, paste fasten, that one was taken out of a different policy. So that can certainly be shortened. And then as well as the last one of operating motorized items, can be shortened as well. That's the other
Mhm.
exceptionally long one I've seen. Cross Lake sign was, no motorized vehicles unless in prohibited or unless in allowed parking area.
and you're thinking about using this at every park?
Yep. Which is, so especially under the fires, we do have charcoal grills
Yeah.
at our other two parks, so.
What's the difference in the next to the last one? Dumping garbage, refuse? What's the difference between that and trash? I have to ask Siri what that means.
Yes.
Oh. Is it necessary to identify that you don't want it like swimming at your own risk if it's at the Nisswa Park down there? I know that I swim there and that's the only reason why I'm like,
Good question. Cause also there might be, so all, it says hunting and trapping are prohibited. I did not list fishing.
Yeah.
Cause you can fish off the docks and Nisswa Lake Park. Hole in the Day is a different type of lake where we wouldn't want people
Mhm.
swimming.
Mhm.
I think within each park, if there's more specific rules, we could call them out separately, in a different sign too, if we determine that there are unique circumstances, based on each park, and that might be one of those,
sure.
maybe.
Maybe you find your icons that exist in every single park, whatever your slash icons, right?
Yeah,
And those go on. Those are the mass. They're not happening anywhere. And then your bulleted list is,
yeah.
I was thinking more like no lifeguard.
Right. Which is a very easy one-off for Nisswa Lake Park. But you see no swimming at City Park, you're like, okay.
It's really nice level.
So yeah, that's a good one to consider for Nisswa Lake Park.
in general, I don't think people really read much anyways. So it,
Yes. I think a list of rules should we need to enforce is generally how I
Yeah.
Yeah, or.
look at them.
The city's liability reasons.
correct.
Yep.
Yep. So
Okay.
they're there.
Cool. Other thoughts?
My only question is when so it said, it specifically talks about cannabis products, but I know you said something, the state does not allow smoking, but do you? Okay, so what about smoking?
Council, we're going back and forth on that, but we're looking we're trying to decide whether we want to prohibit all smoking.
Okay, so that's with okay. Okay, that's all I was curious, if it's all smoking or if you have to, okay,
Right, that's what we don't want cannabis smoking,
yeah,
so many don't want cannabis smoking in the public areas, especially downtown in the parks.
uh-huh,
And there was also brought up, well then, but there's cigarette smoking, so do we ban one and not the other, or do we just say, okay, we're just gonna ban it?
yeah, okay.
And,
TBD then,
yes,
okay,
but we will have that determined by 2025. Because that's when it's
Yeah.
full legal and all that.
okay,
And we have had some public smoking, that's what this.
Yeah. I know we talked about it here, but I was just curious if if it's gonna be called out separately or not,
So it would be either.
one or the other.
Probably be allow smoking or not, but
Okay,
Well, smoking in the
Table
park
that.
could pose a whole different risk than smoking in downtown Nisswa, because if, if it's dry and somebody throws a cigarette out, it could ignite a fire.
yes,
and that's what we're looking at, because it just came up on the cannabis and legalizing and this and that, how we want to handle that, do we want to go, because the state's allowing us to do some ordinances on it. So we're still discussing that, but TBD.
Cool, anything else on the draft rules? Well, I will keep working on it and bring it back to you guys. In a little while here. But yeah, if you think of anything else or you see something somewhere, take a picture and send it to me. Okay, so the last one under Camp Lincoln is park name. So we took suggestions for park names. We did a survey for park names. And these are the first 40 answers we received. You can see the two here that received the most votes. Based on the origin of each name, I did reach out to the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. So in your packet, you have an email from their representative. And had a really good conversation with them on the phone. And so you see their proposed park name. He discussed it with the elders. He explained that they don't generally use people's names. And so Hole in the Day Park, obviously, because it's Hole in the Day Lake right there. But he said culturally they don't use people's names, and so wanted to bring you their recommendation. The elders recommended the English translation of Between the Lakes, because he's like, wow, there's a lot of lakes around there. And so in your packet, you do have their email that kind of talks about the process that they went through in looking at this and Nisswa. And the idea that they were having is they're bilingual. English, Ojibwe, trying to showcase the language. If we were to go down this route, I would recommend that we have some sort of informational sign talking about, figuring out a topic, talking about the name, talking about their culture, something to help put context to it. But I wanted to bring it to you guys and all the park names. You guys have that survey list there of the suggested names. And wanted to bring it to you guys first to get your thoughts on a potential name for the park.
So they would consider Hole in the Day to be,
Can I explain that?
well, I know there's Chief Hole in the Day.
But as we did,
Okay,
it's very offensive to name. Traditionally, people don't use a person's name to name something.
yeah.
There's very rare circumstances where it is, and what they will do is name it after a very prominent warrior chief, but that's very rare. It's considered offensive to put a person's name. Also with some controversy with some individuals, or indigenous peoples in the past. That's one of the reasons, but also with spirits and stuff, so they preferred not to use the name.
But that was my question, hole in the day, because there was chief hole in the day would be considered a name, but we already have a lake that's named that. They didn't name, they had probably no control over that,
They
but
didn't name it, and there's been a lot of discussion on that over many years.
Chief Hole in the Day wasn't necessarily a popular chief, was he?
I won't say. It's my people out of here, right, current indigenous, I won't go into, but,
Well, I just read some stuff about the,
yeah, that was what it is.
yeah,
Um,
okay.
Is there a way to change the name of the lake?
What?
Oh, that takes an act of the legislature.
Not always.
I don't know what that process is.
Yeah, it
Um,
takes a legislative, vote to change the name of a lake. I do know that.
Yeah, so, I mean, if this is a priority within the city to engage in some of these discussions and, have a bilingual or renaming of certain things, we can certainly look into what that process would be.
Well, my.
And if the tribe is, interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The name that he gave, I mean, my concern is, I totally agree there should be some context to the Native American. But the name that they suggested is so, I mean, people had a hard enough time figuring out how to say Gitche Zeebe Performing Center in Brainerd, this name would be even harder. If it could be something that was named and then in parentheses, you see this a lot in places where they have a name and then under, in parentheses is the Ojibwe name.
Yeah,
Is-
well, and I
is that-
think,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that what that is?
I was gonna say, I think they're saying
It's- they
the
want
name would be
grants.
between the lakes, and then we could say in parentheses, the
Well, they
actual.
say proposed name,
Isn't it the-
Zagi.
Not a Y-I-E.
Or, yeah, and then they say,
Zagi,
or between the lakes, which is the meaning of that.
What is the
Phrase, any
Nessa
other
Way
phrase?
Trail Park? What is that?
That is, one of the suggestions that was given, that was receiving one of the large votes.
Is
Oh.
that
Large
an-
amounts of
is that
votes,
an
and that's-
Ojibwe term?
That's what, the internet told me.
Oh.
I see. Okay.
But when I
was
brought
reading that incorrect.
both, Hole in the Day Park and Nessa Way or whatever it is, to the tribe, they came back with this. This is what the elders, how they would have gone about naming the park, or naming the lake area.
It would show great respect to the elders in the tribe by doing the full name. Because Nisswa is a mix of between the lakes, but it would just show respect, to the elders of the tribe, culturally, so what I do, but, you could also, have that name there, and then in parentheses, the smaller version of it, so people, the people will make up a name. And just for not offending.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I think we're at the point in which if hole in the day is they're all gonna be an issue, I mean, there's no reason to use it. I mean, nobody's married to it at this point. Right. So I don't see why we would.
I personally thought
for
the
that, but-
story is very thoughtful. The email and the naming process, like, I think it's nice to have a thoughtful name as well, so I would go this route.
I think it would be, I think when you first see the name, you're obviously,
Yeah,
you're gonna be more curious about it.
yeah,
And I think that's where signage would be fun and it would bring some uniqueness to that park. Now, I think the expectation around it would be that, people would call it between the lakes or like you said, whatever they end up calling it, because no one's gonna be able to read that and pronounce that, but
Shorten it up.
I do think, yeah, I think it brings a unique, I don't know, it brings a unique look to it.
Piques curiosity.
Yep, and an opportunity to educate too, so, you know, whether it be kids or adults.
And it's more prevalent up north of the state, water, north, you'll slowly see it. Version language, and I think that why it would be, for the elders, I mean, over the years, the people that don't speak the language anymore, they shorten down. And that kind of hurts for the culture, so you don't want 100 years from now, people calling it this, when they are, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in the English version, would we be okay with calling it Between the Lakes Park? Between the
Yeah,
Lakes
that's what I was
Trail?
thinking. It'll be, you need something that's going to, I mean, I agree totally with what Paul said and others that, yes, we do need to recognize the origin, but we also need something that's simpler too.
For sure.
Agree.
To go with it. Mhm.
I like the hole in the day just because it tells us where it's at. You know, it's because all these parks are so far away from one another and people don't even know that they're there. So having that hole in the day name to it tells me where it's at.
Yeah, and something I want to do on the website is improve just all of our parks and our trails and helping give locations and what's at each place. So that's something that I want to work on, of just the different amenities at each park and the locations of them. This park does have an address, so I will be able to post that, and well, it may not be in the name of the park. I do in general, I just want to improve that on the website. Cause I think it is hard to tell where the parks are.
Yeah.
Nisswa Lake Park's hard to find for people that are not familiar. So I think that's a good thing to highlight moving forward. The trails, trail maps, locations of parks,
Signage.
signage.
Well, we've talked about this before, but in terms of signage, the Legacy Arts and Culture Fund is a perfect place to apply for some signage money because we've got the cultural history and I'm sure that this would be a high priority. So maybe there's a way to, we could develop some signage that talks about the cultural history, but it could also add some money to our budget for other signage.
Yes.
And a lot of those funds, their RFPs are coming out now. I haven't looked at that one.
I haven't looked at it yet this year. So is there a recommendation? Do you guys want me to go back to the tribe and with a yay, nay, suggested alternative?
Is there an issue with having the name and then Between the Lakes? So if I'm reading this correctly, this is the suggestion, is to have Between the Lakes on
That would be like
signage
the,
as well.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I would recommend. We did talk about bilingual
Okay,
information, well, it was the name and whatnot. But yeah, that's the English translation
and
of how they would name it,
okay,
is how I'm understanding it.
I mean, I feel strongly about this. I think it's, yeah, but do I need to make a motion? Are we at that point?
So what
Do
I'm
we-
thinking, if we're comfortable, you can put a motion out there. Ultimately, it will go through city council. So
Mhm.
this is a recommendation to just
Okay.
either go back to the tribe for a modification, or if you want me to take this recommendation that the tribe gave us and bring it to council, I would look for a motion either way. Or if there's something else on the list that,
How do you pronounce that?
She's been
Go.
saying it all
I've been
day.
trying.
Go for it, Amber.
How do you?
Na'awa'i
Got our
zaga
extra
iganin.
here.
Because you know what's really funny and really ironic, when I look at that, it almost reminds me of Nisswa. You know,
Yeah.
so, but people are gonna shorten it up anyways. They're just gonna say Nissaway or something like that, you know, they're gonna look at that.
I've been practicing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it
What?
correctly. But
Nissaway, yeah, Nissaway.
Kind of, it's a bastardized version of the actual word, this one.
Well, I think it's very befitting, you know, for it, so,
Right, that's why
Yeah.
the area was known as, right.
yeah,
yeah, in the middle of.
yep.
So if you want to try making a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to recommend to the city council.
That
This
we,
name-
that we move forward with.
That we move forward with the proposed name. Between the lakes, yeah, but from the tribal elders, yeah.
I would second that.
With, between the lakes included.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Just as James Clark has written.
Proposed.
Proposed his email, yes.
Any other discussion? All in, Blake,
Oh, Blake, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That I was writing.
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okey dokey. Last one here, moving on to old business. Just a really, really brief update for you guys on City Park. We released the fly-through video. It's posted on Facebook and it's posted on the website. So it's under the Park and Rec page under fundraising. You can watch the videos. You can click on all the icons to see more information about each specific amenity. There's a link there to get to the community fund to donate and a list at the bottom of all the alternative ways you can also donate besides just via credit card. And then May 10th, there will be a fundraiser at the Pickle Factory. And then that will, all the proceeds from that will go to updates to the city park. So there'll be a silent auction, raffle items, food, and probably a band afterwards.
Okay.
So I know we had the question last time, me as a city staff, I cannot actively engage in fundraising. I would extend that to you guys. What we are allowed to do is educate people on the ways, the avenues, where they can find information. So we can certainly let people know that there is a fundraising event. We can certainly let them know that there's information on the website. That's what we can do.
Amber, I noticed in the February minutes, I guess I didn't read this very carefully, but it says you went over funding, the funding tiers document. I guess I missed that. Does that lay out the different components to contribute to? And if you donate money, can you designate to a particular item?
Yes, when you donate, you just have to identify which item you want. So on the website, there's a spot to leave a comment. That's where you would put in which amenity specifically you want it to go to, unless you want it to go to just the general overall project.
But people have to, they aren't gonna know that that's how you would designate it. There's
On,
not a checkoff box.
no, and there's not gonna be. So when we go to the website and what it says there, and it's just written in, so you have to select Nisswa Enrichment Fund, that's the fund for these projects. And then you have to designate in the comments if you want your donation to go towards a specific amenity.
Does it say that?
Yes,
I can't read.
on the
that from here.
website. So when you get to the page, it doesn't say that, like it just says leave a comment.
Right.
So it brings you to here and then,
And is this what you're gonna use going forward? This is the fundraising
This is,
vehicle?
yeah, this
I mean, I
is,
know the fund is there, but is this, this is the way it's gonna be? Because I've said this before. I know a lot of pickleball players in this community, and I have people that come to me all the time and say, when are those pickleball courts gonna be built? And they like wanna know when and how much it's gonna cost, and we haven't done anything to look at the actual costs of the different elements of
Correct.
the park. You know, so, and if we wanna build that particular, that and the playground, because you've said they have to go together. We need to do something very actively this summer because a lot of the seasonal people in the area would donate to that, but they'll be gone.
so all
The
we can do is educate. We can't do active fundraising. And so if people want to know specifics, you click on the icon and you have the images, and then
But it doesn't tell them when it's gonna be built.
because we don't have plans, it's all donation based. So if we get enough donations, I can write a grant. We can, if we have all the donations, that's gonna drive the timeline. The city is not putting in any funds right now. They're not gonna do any plans until the donations and the funding is there. And
Well,
that's
this
the
is kind of a
direction.
Catch-22, because, you know, you can't get people to donate if they don't know about it, and on the other hand, you know, it's totally donation based.
Yep, and so on this info page, it has the estimated construction cost, some professional fees, and then through donations, and then we have identified the outdoor rec, the DNR outdoor recreation grant, and that's an annual grant up to 350,000. And so that's kind of what we've earmarked for pickleball specifically. There's certainly other things for the playground and things like that, but basically everything is funding based. So when the funding comes in, that's when we get to move forward.
But you've said before that you don't want to build the pickleball courts unless you build the playground at the same time.
I have said that we need to do basic engineering, so everything is spaced out appropriately and everything underground is identified and moved, so we don't have to redo.
Yeah, I don't want to be a broken record about the pickleball courts, but I'm just saying that is one adult recreation thing that is in extreme demand right now. And every community around us has pickleball courts that they've built in the last couple of years, and you know, what people are, we're sitting in the middle of all this. And, you know, this is one thing that we could provide to adults that we don't provide a lot of the specific adult related activities. They're
And as
more-
soon as the
they're not- they're-
donations come in, then that's the direction we've received from city council, that it has to be donation based, because it's not a current amenity. And so we're not levying for it at this time.
Is there a committee like there was for the park? There was the Nisswa Lake Park, something. or
There's
other.
not a fundraising committee that exists, no.
Could they essentially create a pickleball fundraising committee if they wanted to and walk money into the city hall?
Well, yeah, sure, they could if somebody was willing to take
Yeah.
that on. And I'm not actively,
Well, I think like anything,
Offering.
word spreads, right? That's our biggest,
I mean, I'm
that's our
happy
greatest
to
power.
spread it to people I know around
Yeah.
and let them know. But still the problem is, you know, they're gonna say, well, if we donate now, are we guaranteed that it's gonna be built in 2025? And I can't say yes, so they're gonna back off.
Is there an option where you can, once you get a large majority of the fundraising done, that you can do one court at a time?
So
When the engineering is all done, you know, you get the engineering done for the pickleball courts and you have it for the playground. You already have it, you have the ground already set up. Could you do one court at a time? Put that in?
I probably wouldn't suggest that. I will say what we can do is we can routinely review our donation amounts. That's gonna help us determine a timeline. That's gonna help us understand what kind of order things are gonna come in. That's gonna help us understand what kind of funding I need to put in the budget if there is some. You know, if we're so far along and we just need to kick in a little extra to get us there, then I can bring that information to city council to have those talks and make a decision. But until we know how the funding is coming in, it's really hard to put a timeline together. It's really hard to put a plan together. And I know that's extremely frustrating for people. It's tough for me. I want this all spelled out, so I just know my roadmap and I can go. But that's not the direction we've been given.
Is there something that we could do to appease that in the meantime? I know that we have like standalone nets in the hockey rink. Is standalone nets in general not necessarily the ideal way
People
of?
don't like playing in the hockey rink because it's hot and water stands in there when it rains. The concrete's really hard on your
Running
feet.
after the balls.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a popular
So
place. to play.
our current pickleball situation is not ideal.
Right,
It's what we have for the time being.
but do we have anything to like do with this, maybe the school over there? Do we have any say in that tennis court?
We do not have any say over that. We've had different discussions with them. And it doesn't look like that's something that's gonna be updated right now. So yes, all I can say is that the direction is donation based. And so the faster donations come in, the faster the projects can move along.
Well, again, that's a double-edged sword because if you're not letting people know about it, the donations aren't gonna come in.
So how else would you propose we let people know about it?
Well, I was under the impression that you were working with a fundraising group. Is that not correct?
That is not correct. We do not have a fundraising group.
Okay. I
Not
mean, you have
yet
to get the word out
anyways.
there somehow through social media, through, you know, articles in the paper, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's word of mouth.
So I'll say the video, when it was released on Facebook, that's had about 3,000 views on it. So that is a lot more than we normally get on a post. So it's out there. It's showing the concept of the park. That doesn't necessarily mean it's all gonna translate to donations. But it is helping with the awareness. And then, yes, the fundraising event at the Pickle is another opportunity, as well as putting some signs on site. I will be putting a stuffer in the Run for the Lakes bag, to just help keep the reach going. So yes, I can inform people of what's happening.
Do you think you can get a sign made before the Run for the Lake so you can have it posted at the park? Because that's where their station is?
Yeah, potentially.
When is that? What's the
May-
date on?
May 4th.
Oh,
Or-
Would that be a permanent sign?
No.
You know, so what if, you know, you got the pickleball courts, the nets in there and people, a lot of people don't know that it's for fundraising. What if you put a temporary sign out there saying, you know what? You don't
Yeah.
like these courts? Why
Yeah.
don't you donate to, you
Yeah.
can make fun, I mean, you can make it light
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of fun.
So that's what I can do, is I can let people know that we're seeking that,
Yeah, we're
you know,
trying to put a pickleball.
we're
court.
trying to inform people that we're looking for park updates and this is how you can go about donating.
Me personally, I would go put $10 in a pot if I wanted to go in to play pickleball, you know, for a while, just to go and get that pot going. You know, something just as simple as that.
But yes, with being a local government unit, certain rules apply in terms of what we are allowed to do for fundraising.
Are we still putting, a temporary net on where the old basketball court was?
Yes.
That's my
Is there any way we could improve that surface? You know, to provide a court that's usable?
Couple options would be to redo the asphalt that's there or to put down a sport court, but I don't know if those are things that we should be investing in or want to invest in if we're hoping to remove it. So that's kind of where I'm at on a lot of the park
Well-
stuff is what do we do? We're kind of deferring some of our maintenance.
Yeah.
But, you know, so
I'm just thinking if we had a court that people could use that was in good shape, and then that could be a sort of a
teaser?
gateway, a teaser to get them to donate money to the park fund.
How about we raise enough money to get one court in there? And show people what it's gonna look like. if you get a couple.
Yeah, I'd say the time, energy and effort would be, well, probably not our best use of resources to do one court.
Maybe not, but it'll get people excited to
Yeah,
put more money in there.
and it shows progress, which is important.
Well, and the grant to the DNR, does it have to be for the total project or can it be for a portion of the the master plan? I mean, I haven't read.
I
the
would have to
language
read
for
it.
that.
I know, the creation of a pickleball court's an allowable thing to apply for. And so I would say at that juncture, either we're looking at maybe reducing the scope of the project potentially, depending on what the funds are and, yeah. But it's an annual grant, so we can either put it in and try it early and do half a project if we don't have all the funds, or you wait till you get all the funds and then apply.
Well, it's a 50% match, isn't it?
Correct.
It's due in March.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we have,
So I'm saying that this summer is the prime opportunity to get a lot of our seasonal people.
correct. So. Do you have other ideas of what we can do?
Are we as park commission members restricted in how we promote it?
I'll say you cannot actively fundraise. You can passively communicate.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you can't be
I
host,
couldn't send an email and ask people to spread it around.
well, there's educating. You can educate people. You can let them know it
That's
exists.
telling them to.
But if I were to say, hey, go donate to, versus there's a website where you can find out more information about donating, it sends a different message. A very minor, fine line.
I don't think that would encourage people to go do it.
What about the organization of a fundraising committee?
I think that has to be approved through city
It
council.
does?
It does, but I was just gonna say, if you wanted to, a couple of you go and talk to Jenny and remember at the same time,
Okay,
and say, how can we go about doing this? What's
Yeah.
procedure? Is it,
What can we do, not what can't we do? Let's start with
I
there.
don't think commission members can be part of that fundraising committee.
but could we maybe create some outreach to, that we are
Yes.
looking for? So it seems to me like you should have one person very, very dedicated to the park, one person very dedicated to pickleball, one person very dedicated to hockey,
And I
and then
think
put them all together.
everybody has their own resources
Yeah,
and you can certainly speak to them.
okay, okay.
You can educate them on, this is our hope, this is our plan, this is how we're accepting donations. You can certainly educate people.
Okay,
And would it be proper then to say if the project might be scaled back in order to get some of the amenities built sooner?
I would say if they have more questions, direct them to me. Whatever the questions are, you can
Nice.
educate people, but we don't have a plan. That's the hard part. Like, we have a plan, but it's not like,
Conceptual.
it's all conceptual. I don't have a timeline. We don't have the funding, so it is based, like, we're in part reacting to what happens and we just have to keep adjusting as we move through it.
Very similar to Nisswa Lake Park. That was all based on fundraising.
But that had a committee that actively did some things that, that did get the word out there.
Yep, so if you guys have in your networks, there's people that want to really get after it, just have them reach out to me.
okay, reach out to you.
Yep, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, I really do think that's our best.
But word of mouth is a powerful tool.
otherwise it's considered pay to play.
Well, the city of Cross Lake does make quite a bit of money off their pickleball courts
Yes, they do.
because they charge a membership that allows people to play between a certain period of time. I think it's 7 AM to 1 PM.
Does this fall under that?
Huh?
Does this fall under?
Well, I'm just raising the point is we once they're built, you could use it as an income generator.
Yes, we have not talked operation.
They have 300 members.
Lot, yeah.
And the community center takes daily fees too.
And they charge $50 a year for the members.
75 now.
Oh, 25 now.
75.
Oh, 75. Oh. See, they figured.
But they have some people that have taken the lead on that operation as well.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
not
And they were the
fully
lead
staff
people
directed.
fundraising too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have a unique operation over there.
They're pushing to get 4 more.
Yes.
Really? Wow.
So,
That's how popular it is.
any other, I will just reiterate, May 10th is our fundraising event, 5 to 7 at the Pickle.
And I don't think at this stage we should be putting too much energy and mainly money into it, but as far as, let's say, $1 million donation comes in tomorrow, and we wanna hit the ground running with installing something. Do we have, like, what's the action plan as far as getting, going from, we've got the funds to, making calls and making that happen? And I only say that because there might be depending on how we plan that out, we might be, there's a lot to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of orchestration, and depending on which direction we go, it might dictate the budget significantly. And the actual plan too.
Yes, and along with that, the consideration of just the lead time on everything, the workload capabilities. Generally, first step, we go to the city engineer.
Yep.
And start going from there. Also, the priority still remains, the first top priority, if $1 million came in and they don't put any stipulations on it, would be towards pickleball in the playground.
Yeah.
That's still the first area. And so with those two, it's a little more unique, where the playground company is gonna do a lot of their
Mhm.
stuff. And then you're gonna have pickleball kind of specific things. And so that's a whole different beast to figure out than the architectural and the engineering and the refrigeration system of a hockey rink. So
Well,
the
I'm
different
just-
amenities have different
yeah.
things, but I'd say baseline, again, I think we still need to go to the engineers, and we got to make sure that we start putting numbers to the concept and getting it spaced out correctly, where our utilities and,
would we try to find a general contractor for this? Would it fall on you? Would it fall on, like the city engineer, and maybe I'm naive in what the totality of their scope of work is, but a city engineer isn't calling Anderson Brothers. They're not calling the playground company. They're not calling the concrete guy. So who's the general contractor?
so I'll say in reference to like the Gull Lake Trail, there's a point of contact with Anderson Brothers, and there's a point of contact with Widseth. So the engineer spoke to the contact at Anderson Brothers. Anderson Brothers took care of all their subcontractors.
Sure.
So the engineer kind of worked as the manager, the construction manager. I would say, depending on the scope of the project, we might want to look at other alternatives and how we want to go about that. It's certainly not me.
Well, and yeah, I'm curious.
But yes, I like to be very involved in the process and understand, but yeah, I don't think we have the, all of that laid out,
Yeah,
just
and I
depending on
wouldn't
how it
put this
kind
too
of,
fully right now.
yeah.
I'm just, hey,
those are my ideas of, generally it's first stops the engineer.
yeah.
And then if we need to go from somewhere else, or, some of the stuff like a playground, we might not have to bid it. We can go through state contract.
Mm-hmm.
Would we prefer to go out for bid and, think, so there's a lot of considerations.
I don't know if local units of government have to go out for bids if you're using public money, like the legacy money. At least I'm involved in the Outdoor Heritage Fund and I work for a local government, so to speak. And we've not had to go out and get bids or have not had to, you know, advertise for multiple people because they're a local government. So I don't know. that.
Yeah, something, kind of the general rule of thumb that I've been under is if it's over $100,000, we go out for bid. But definitely something to look into.
Yeah. to do
Yeah.
it, But I don't know that it's required
And
if
then,
you would get a grant.
With the scope of this project, the end result monies.
yes, very good questions, a lot.
Yeah, a
lot to
little
sort through.
premature.
Yes, but all good things to start thinking about for some of these different scenarios that could pan out.
Mhm.
Final thoughts, comments?
Just, are we allowed to, okay, so that Facebook, of the video that's going around, right? Can we post on there saying that we're looking to, if anyone's looking to help with the, fundraising, contact you? And so it's more so like out and about that we're trying to form a committee? Or is that past our, like, we can't do that?
I can check with, Jenny, cause I feel like a committee has to be formed, like approved by city council would be the appropriate procedure.
Okay, so, groups of civilians know that something's gonna be put in, so they come to the city and they say, we'd like to form a Friends of the Park to help raise funds. That they would have to go to Amber and Jenny in this debate.
Sure.
They would have to hammer out all the details, so then that would have to come to the city council for approval to form.
Right.
For that.
Yes.
And so what I'm asking is, can we post on Facebook?
Not on the city page.
And say like, hey, or Brandon Headland, can he post, well, can I post on Brandon Headland's webpage or Facebook saying, hey, we're looking to do this, or can I not post on there? It's not the city page, it's a private page, but it's, I don't know how far it goes into, I know, I'm just.
I'll say it's just if you're talking to people and they have additional interest, cause then is the committee for pickleball? Is it for the whole park?
Well, that's.
So like all those different things would still have to be sorted out, but I know you guys know people and I know you're all excited and I want you to go talk to your friends.
Word of mouth is versus.
Maybe a friend could post it.
And then if your friends are as
There you go.
excited as you are, just have them call me.
You know, I mean,
It's a fine line and I'm not a lawyer.
you go around the brewery, you're having beer,
So.
everyone's there.
Right.
Were you advertising the event on the 10th? Just through the sign and Facebook or
It'll be on Facebook and I believe there'll be a banner outside.
it'll be a banner? Okay. I'm not on Facebook, so.
That'd be a good day to form a committee.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I'm amazed that 3,000 people have watched that video. Where are they getting this information? I saw it on Facebook, but.
Yeah,
where is it?
Facebook.
You have, how many Facebook members do you have?
Like 1,500,
Popular.
super popular. So yes, I know Facebook's not the end all be all, but you know, for an event like that, we'll probably notify the paper and,
Okay.
Again, word of mouth probably.
yeah, so. And all the traditional paper, word of mouth, Facebook. We don't have a lot of facilities to put
Yeah.
information in, so. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, motion to adjourn.
Wait, I have one thing.
Oh, sorry.
This wasn't on the agenda. I probably should have put it on the agenda, but the pollinator garden in the park. We didn't really do much, we didn't pay much attention to that last year. And I just wondered if there's anybody else on the committee that's interested in kind of working on that with me.
I'm sorry, what is this?
We put in a pollinator garden in the Nisswa Lake Park
Yeah.
a couple years ago.
What
And-
do you do for it? I mean, what's the
Well,
commitment?
we need to wait and see what comes up.
Okay,
But, there's plants that need to be replaced
Okay.
and maybe thinned out. I don't know. But did,
It's pretty sparse still in there, like it's
yeah.
very contained to what was planted. Um,
Well, the same garden that was planted at the church is like prolific. It's just like overgrown. We may be, I belong to that church. We may be, thinning some of that out that we could move over to the Nisswa Lake Park. Just so, I'm just wondering if anybody's interested in
I'd
it.
be happy to
Oh,
help. You'd have to
okay.
tell me though, how to do that. I don't have a green thumb, but
Okay.
I'm happy to help.
Well, and me
Yeah.
as well, and I know somebody that would love to help something like that, that's actually got background in plants.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can put some feelers out to kind of the group. I think the people at Ashdown would love to help. The forest school, I would bet they would love to help.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, there's,
Well, we need to spruce it up.
yeah,
It's got nice signage and a lot of people go through the park.
yeah.
Okay.
thank you. Motion to adjourn from someone?
Can make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.